I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work and are backed by science. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body, and that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. We use only top-of-the-line formulations dosed for maximum results and the best flavoring systems available. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
After working hard at the gym, you need a mattress that works as hard as you do. Spinalign has engineered the perfect mattress for you and your active lifestyle. Don't compromise your recovery with inferior sleep. Order your Spinalign mattress today.
Tighten up. Yep.
Hello, I'm Brian Dobson, owner of Metroflex Gym, the original home of hardcore training. This pandemic has nearly crippled the fitness industry we all so dearly love. With Metroflex gyms now opening up all across the country, it's our turn to hit back. If your health was ever a priority, now's the time. Now's the time to stop feeding your fear and your anxieties and feed your desire to get back on the saddle. For desire is the starting point of all achievement. For those who feel uncertain for what the future will hold, I'm here to assure you Metroflex Gym will continue to provide a platform for bodybuilding and strength conditioning athletes all across the nation. This optimism extends to potential owners looking to venture into owning and operating a Metroflex Gym. With interest rates at an all-time low, you can open up your own Metroflex Gym for the price of a new car. Our Metroflex Gyms are back in business. We're now waiting for you to do the same. Stay hardcore, y'all. God bless.
RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as #AskDave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, everything going on in the bodybuilding world, and of course, life in general, and whatever it is that is on your mind is all on the table. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, I just saw you checking out that shirt you're wearing. It is Cobra Kai. I don't know if it has to do with that Cobra Kai or a Cobra Kai green, if you want to elaborate, but it does say No Mercy, which makes it extra sweet.
Yeah, Amanda bought me this shirt because she knows I like snakes, and obviously it's from Karate Kid, the Cobra Kai. But it's a good segue to the Cobra Kai green story that we were going to talk about. You know, he's got that new variety show. I'm completely obsessed with it. I think it's brilliant. You know, a lot of people make fun of it because he's dressing up as women. They say it's boring, and I love how creative Kai is. I love whoever's been editing it all together has been doing a great job. I could tell Kai spent a lot of time with costumes and you know, plotting it out and scripting it and stuff like that. I think he's a tremendous personality. I love to see him just ad lib and do all the kooky stuff and dancing and routines and funny comedy, and he's even standing up there like Johnny Carson, doing a monologue. I think it's brilliant. I really think it's brilliant. And if you go to his YouTube channel, Kai Green, I think it's the latest video he put up. I don't know if this is the first. He doesn't have it listed as episode 1, but he says My Variety Show or something like that it's called. And I don't know how anyone can't appreciate it. It's Kai Green at his best. Just being, Kai, just total creative being. I mean, the best part about watching Kai when he competes to me is his routine that he does at night. So this is like a half hour of routines for him that he's doing. So to me, I can't get enough of it. I really enjoy it. Well,
Dave, question for me, because I know we were going to talk about how right now on the RxMuscle YouTube channel and, of course, RxMuscle.com, it should be live right now, the episode of Iron Rage, you and Lee Priest, and you went specifically into the Kai Green Variety Show. And I guess the question that I had, and, we do, whenever we post something about Kai Green, especially over the last couple of years, seems to be a lot of hate. Seems to be a lot of people, especially within the bodybuilding world, that for whatever reason, I don't know, they're just tired of waiting to see whether or not he'll compete again, whether he'll take the Olympia stage again. Could be whatever, right? Maybe he's just not their cup of tea. But why is it, do you think, that maybe the most vitriol that Kai gets is from within the bodybuilding world?
Because these people in our industry just want to see him compete on a bodybuilding show. They don't care about all the creative, projects he has. And I guarantee, look, I know where I am at 52 years old mentally at this point. I don't think his head is into competing anymore. I think he loves bodybuilding just like I love bodybuilding, and for him, he wants to be huge. I don't know why he still wants to be huge if he's not going to compete, but that's his shtick because he sticks out. He's different looking, but his head is in creating artistic expressions, okay, that transcend bodybuilding and go into the world of celebrity, the art world. If you've ever seen his paintings, they're amazing. He is a creative being that he wants to evolve into the next stage of whatever he's going to do. And I haven't spoken to him. I just know. And I know if he was here, he'd be like, you got it. You're right. And he has to use the bodybuilding thing to tease it a little bit to keep the fans interested. But the bottom line is that you could tell he's evolving, and he's got not only a bodybuilding audience, but he's obviously got mainstream America or the world as well, because he's got way more followers than anyone else. He's in the millions, okay? We got, a 250,000 followers. That's pretty much all the bodybuilders. There might be a few more. He's got more than just the bodybuilding audience. He's got the hardcore bodybuilders. He's got, mainstream people who like just art. He's got an art community that likes to see what he's doing. So he's got, a much more wide-based, support system that is watching him, and that's going to make him more popular. It's going to enable him to make more money and move into the next stage of his life. And I think that that's smart what he's doing. Will we ever see Kai Green on a bodybuilding stage? That's what everyone wants to know. I wouldn't rule it out because he's the kind of person that one day may roll out of bed and say, you know what? I want to do this one more time. I don't think it's on his mind right now, but it could happen because that's the way Kai is. He just might just get in the mood to do it and do it. So we can't really be saying every Olympia, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? When he's ready, he'll tell us, but he certainly is still working on projects and taking it to the next level. He's not coasting. A lot of guys hit up a certain age and they just coast. He is not coasting. He's working hard on whatever his new projects are, and that's obvious with that variety show.
So again, that episode of Iron Rage live right now at RxMuscle.com. Let's go to the questions. The first two questions, of course, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question, Dave, I seem to be a maintenance calories currently. Says a, I guess he means to say in, or would adding a cheat meal or two a week be more beneficial than just adding a small amount of food daily?
What I like to do is I like to keep boosting daily caloric intake or whatever, macro intake, whatever. I don't want to get into the whole calorie macro stuff. No, but I like to boost food each day. So we're building up a bigger baseline amount of food that you're going to eat. And then if that's not enough to push you to the next level and start the weight gaining process, then I throw in an extra cheat meal here and there. So you still have to build the food up, because what happens is as you start gaining muscle, your macro requirements increase. You need more protein, you need more fat, and you need more carbs. So that your baseline has to increase, as well as spiking and basically shocking your body maybe with an extra cheat meal here and there if necessary. A lot of people, I'll up, the protein and carbs 10 grams at every meal, and it works, Other people, I do that, they don't gain any weight. And then I throw a cheat meal in, an extra cheat meal a weekend, and all of a sudden they start growing. So you have to kind of play around with it, and that will really determine what you need. Everyone's body's a little different. And usually with women, you don't have to put in an enormous amount of food, and you kind of bump their protein a half an ounce at every meal, and all of a sudden they start growing again. Men, a lot of times when you raise food slowly, their metabolism kind of jumps up a little bit to kind of keep up with it, and then they don't gain any weight. Oh, by the way, I wanted to say one more thing. Whenever I'm on these shows, I'm always doodling on this. Like I usually have like a piece of white paper with my notes, and I'm always making these doodles. And Tyler hangs them up on the wall sometimes because I make creative stuff. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to get a big piece of canvas here, and I'm going to have paints, or I'm going to have like markers. And while I'm doodling during the show, whatever masterpiece I create, I think maybe I will auction it off or something like that to our audience on like maybe once a month, and then we'll give the money to charity or something like that. We'll pick a charity of whoever buys the piece could determine the charity that the money will go to or something like that. Just for shits and giggles,
So the new division now is Palumbo'S Arts. That's going to be. Second question again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. What is the next? This is actually a really good question. What is the next health or sports supplement you see being an impact on the market?
It's hard to tell. It's hard to say because just when you think there's nothing new coming out, something new comes out. Stimulants were really big, right, the last 5 years. But then they kind of outlawed a lot of them, that they're not, they kind of tightened up the ship, so to speak, and a lot of those, methamphetamine-like supplements are kind of gone. So that, and I think a lot of people were getting kind of a lot of negative side effects from that. So I think people kind of moved away from that a little bit. Now people are kind of sticking with the energy drinks with just caffeine, which is a lot safer probably. I don't think we're going to see any new muscle building supplements that are natural, that are legally sold, because I just don't think that there's anything out there that's going to be that strong unless some new miraculous discovery comes about. I think what we're going to start being able to do is really target what our nutritional requirements are a little more precisely, meaning that we're going to find out more superfoods type stuff, fruit, vegetable, polyphenolic extracts. I think essential fatty acids are still in its infancy. I mean, I know Omega Lyse is probably the most progressive essential fatty acid supplement on the market, utilizing omega 3s and 6s from animal sources, of the 3s and the 6s coming from primrose oil, and of course using the palmitoleic acid omega-7 fat, which we know is a great insulin sensitizer and reduction of C-reactive protein. But I think that there's more essential fatty acids that we haven't even really identified as being things that could possibly start to enhance our ability to recover and grow muscle. Look at Bill Llewellyn's product, and I sell it because I'm a big believer, and I sell it on DavePalumbo.com, called the X Factor. It's arachidonic acid in its purest form, and it's only 1,000 milligrams a day you're taking of the stuff, but it's an omega-6 essential fat that you wouldn't take if you didn't work out, because you probably wouldn't need, because it is a pro-inflammatory essential fatty acid. But for people who work out, who utilize that inflammatory reaction as a signal for the body to come in and repair and build muscle, we've shown that, and he's done a lot of research that he's funded, that you take 1,000 milligrams of arachidonic acid a day, and guess what happens? You grow better, and there's the research to prove that out there. And you even, when you take this stuff, you actually get more sore the next day, because those prostaglandins that are released, those pro-inflammatory ones, also create pain. Think about what happens when you have the flu and you release prostaglandins. You get like sore and achy. Well, when you increase prostaglandins, I guess you could say production, especially the pro-inflammatory ones that are the signalers for the body to repair itself, you'll feel sore in the muscle group more that you trained that day. And so that's very interesting to me, and I think he's only touched on the subject of that, and I think it's going to be elaborated more over the next 5 to 10 years, and we're going to learn there might even be some other compounds that we can take orally that might even be closer to the prostaglandin itself, or maybe we could take the prostaglandins themselves. I don't know. But that to me is interesting, because I think that's something that we really haven't really got a full grasp on. We're just starting to kind of cut through the surface. We know a lot about protein, and we know a lot about how protein stimulates mTOR, which will start the protein machinery. We know how carbs are pretty much processed. We know a lot about insulin. We don't know a lot about fatty acids. I'm telling you, we're just starting to get through the surface layers and get to the nitty-gritty, and I think we're going to find out a lot more in the next couple of years.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're not following us, our handle is official_RxMuscle. And general reminder, if you're watching us for the first time on YouTube and you haven't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button below, like this video. Obviously, it helps us a lot. Hit the notification bell so you're not going to miss any of our upcoming shows or segments. Let's go to Tony DeFranco. How long to wait after competing before going into an off-season phase? Immediately? Clean out from the drugs first? What say you?
I would go as quickly as possible into off-season eating, okay? But what I found was, because my stomach would be so shrunk up from the diet, I just couldn't handle the volume of food. I mean, so I had to kind of build up to it. Otherwise, I was sick all the time. But I usually just forced it and made myself feel nauseous all the time. After about 2 to 3 weeks, your stomach kind of restretches out and it can handle the higher volume of food. But what I always do after shows, I always go off. I never really stayed on, because think about it, you have enough probably gear in your system to last 4 weeks after a show if you never took a shot after your show. So you're going to get a good rebound whether you stay on or go off anyway. And you know what? What I found was when I would go off after a show, my appetite would be way better because I wasn't pumping more toxic drugs into my body. My body was because the first thing you notice when you go off is your appetite gets really good. At least that's what I noticed. And a lot of people tell me the same thing, because you remove the toxins you're putting in your body. So your body wants to consume now, because it's not overloading the organs of like the liver and stuff like that, of having to try to detoxify itself all the time. So my appetite would come back full force really well. And so that really helps you grow. You have a lot of stuff in your system already, because the stuff that doesn't just leave, like I said, it has a 3-week, most of the stuff lasts for 3 weeks in your system, or maybe even a little longer. So, and because you're not taking more shots, you're really not aromatizing more drugs. The drugs are already in there. So what I found was you actually lose a lot of fluid retention after that initial, weight gain after the show, because sometimes you rebound with water. Once that goes away after a week or two, you get really dry looking. I used to have people like 2-3 weeks after the show accuse me of being on more stuff, and I was on nothing, because my body just dropped all the excess water it had. So I still had all my muscle. I had all my muscle fullness. You're not going to lose those extra red blood cells for 120 days. They last a long time. So I looked really good, like 3, 4, up to probably about 4 or 5 weeks after a show. I looked like I was, I was still going to compete tomorrow, that kind of thing. And then little by little, when you hit around about the 6 week mark, things start to, you start to deflate. You lose all those extra red blood cells and stuff like that. But then it's only another 2-3 weeks anyway till you go back on, because you only clean out 8-9 weeks, right? So that's the way to do it. You do a show, you go off, you start increasing your food gradually, building it up to off-season levels at about 2 weeks after the show. And that extra food is going to help you maintain your muscle and give you that good rebound of growth after the cycle is over. By the time things start to wear off and you start deflating, you're ready to go back on again. And that's how I did it every single year. Probably the last 5 or 6 years of my career, I would stay on, go off for 8 to 10 weeks, and then do it again. And that was my routine.
Let's go to Zoe Fit. When trying to hit a certain protein intake, parentheses, aiming for 1 gram per pound of body weight, do you only track animal protein since it is a complete protein, or do you track all protein, including beans, nuts, etc.?
Yeah, that's a good question, because you can become an absolute crazy neurotic if you start tracking everything. I only track the direct sources of protein, from, like you said, animal sources, like if I'm having beef, or I'm having chicken, or I'm having fish, or I'm having a whey or eggs. That's my protein count. I don't count whatever's in the nuts, peanut butter, if you're eating beans or anything like that, or I don't count that. I don't even count Legendary Foods protein Pop-Tarts, even though they have 16 grams of protein, something like that. Yeah. They have 9 grams of protein. So if I usually eat 2 of these, so I don't count those 18 grams towards my daily requirements, because even though it is a good source of protein, I just don't count them. I'll count protein shakes, eggs, beef, chicken, fish, stuff like that. and I won't worry about what's in, sources that I'm not really interested in. Because you know what? A lot of those plant sources of protein don't get really absorbed that well anyway. There's a lot of fiber associated with them. Now, granted, if you're eating an enormous amount of the stuff, like if you're eating pea protein, okay, I know like there's Amanda, my wife, just got this pea protein pasta. It's got a lot of protein in it. You have to count that because it's a really high amount, per serving. So that would be considered a protein source to me. But I wouldn't normally factor in if there was a little, pea protein in here. But if it's actually like a direct source, or you're doing like a pea protein shake, yeah, you count that. But what I find is that if you're losing weight, using the macros where you're not counting it, that's fine. If all of a sudden you notice, you know what, I don't know why I'm not losing any weight. You might actually be consuming too much protein, because of that extra stuff that's indirectly in the foods you have. In which case, you either need to eliminate that type of protein source, or that type of whatever you're using it for, a fat source, if you're using too much peanut butter, or you have to kind of adjust your other source of protein down a little bit. So a lot of times as guys lose or women lose weight, I have to reduce their amount of protein they're eating because it's just too much.
Let's go to Booby Bobby Trappler, good friend of the show. Your thoughts on no carbs while off cycle to prime your body for a bulk when you get back on?
Not a good idea. When you're off cycle, you're very vulnerable to losing muscle. And one of the things I prided myself on is that I did go off every single year that I competed. Only 1 year I stayed on, and it was a bad year. My body didn't look good because I just didn't detoxify. But every year I went off, and I just made it my business to make sure that I ate perfectly, that I got enough food and all the right foods, and the balance of the macros were good, because I didn't want to use it as an excuse. Hey, I lost 15 pounds of muscle when I was off because I just didn't eat right. Because I know guys, they go off, they don't even train. They're like, I don't want, what am I going to train for? I can't grow. Well, you know what? You're training to hold on to all that muscle you just spent the last year putting on. For your dear life, you're going to hold on to that. So you lower your carbs down. Now your body is using the protein you're eating as a fuel source, okay? In addition to the fats that your body needs. And then what's going to happen? You're going to lose muscle tissue. So not a good idea to go zero carb while you're on nothing. When you're on a cycle and you go zero carb, the steroids are preserving your muscles. There's very little chance of you losing. But when you're off cycle and your levels are like in the toilet bowl because you're probably crashed because your body hasn't turned itself back on yet, not a good idea to be restricting resources for your body, because that's a good way to lose muscle.
Long one here, but it's one that I think a lot of people at some point, a question that they contemplate being enhanced or not enhanced. It's from Robert Paul. Recently did my physical blood work. Everything is okay minus elevated bad cholesterol. Due to family history, was prescribed 5 mg of a statin. Also went for a heart CT calcium score, which is super high. All this was 3 months after my last cycle and been currently on TRT. Question is, like when running a cycle and your cholesterol levels rise, will it do the same for a CT calcium score? Will they drop with the statin, or is this a wake-up call and time to live a non-enhanced life?
I don't think the anabolic steroids are what's raising the calcium. Calcium score is a lot of times very genetic, unfortunately. We do know that, if you take vitamin K2 and its isoforms, that it can direct calcium away from the blood vessels. So that's definitely a supplement you want to throw in. So everyone's taking vitamin D right now. I mean, I know I got all my clients on vitamin D, and I recommend about 7,000 I use a day. If you take my V Mineralize vitamin mineral mix, it has 2,000, and I have people take an extra 5,000. With that, it wouldn't be a bad idea. And Life Extension actually makes a vitamin K2 that's combined with vitamin D, so you can get them all in one thing. Take the D and the K2, because that will make sure that calcium, because vitamin D allows you to absorb more calcium, one of the functions of it. But you don't want the calcium going to the vessels, especially if you're genetically predisposed to that. Vitamin K, theoretically, at least in the research that we've read, will direct the calcium away from the vessels. So that's one thing you should do. If you're prone to blockages in your arteries, also taking a pure EPA oil. We've talked about this. It's one of the essential omega-3 fatty acid intermediates, DHA being the other one. But if you take a pure EPA oil, there's a company called Omega Via You can buy them on Amazon.com. And Omega Via makes a pure EPA oil, and I think they're 500 milligram capsules. You need to take 4 a day, so you need to take 2,000 milligrams a day of the stuff. And the research has shown that it will actually help clean the vessels out if you do have any kind of plaque buildup in those vessels. So that's something, if you are prone, like this person who's asking the question, they should be on pure EPA every single day for the rest of their life, 2,000 milligrams per day. And that's not even a question. They should be taking their vitamin D with vitamin K2 to direct the calcium away from the vessels. There's no research that I've ever seen that steroids cause increased calcium deposition in the vessels. So I don't think that is even an issue. However, we do know that anabolics can skew cholesterol scores, meaning lowers the good cholesterol, HDLs. It can raise the HDLs. If you're on an essential fatty acid supplement like Omega-Lyze, because it's high dosed in the right ratios, that's going to bring down those LDLs. A product like Fiberlyze, that's a very high potency fiber supplement, will also bring down the LDL bad cholesterol because it binds up those bile salts in the intestinal tract and it pulls them out of the body, so the body doesn't regenerate them and turn them into more LDLs. So that's always the two supplement routine that I give people with high cholesterol. It seems to always work. The fiber with the Omega-Lyze, okay? In people who have blockages already, you add that pure EPA oil on top of all this, and always make sure you get your vitamin D3 with K. So if you're gonna buy it, like I said, you might as well go to Life Extension. I don't make anything off of that, but I use it because it's convenient, and they got the K and the Super K and the D all in there already.
Let's go to UC Summa, another big contributor to the show. GH is supposed to help with fat oxidation, but gives me immediate water retention. Are the benefits worth the added water weight?
What's the supplement?
No, GH. GH. Is supposed to help.
Okay.
Yeah.
The water retention from growth hormone is very dose dependent. And I see people taking just way too much. I have a guy who's just started taking PEDs, and he's like, I'm taking 10 IUs of GH, and I thought maybe, people sometimes who just start, they don't know how to measure stuff. So I'm like, well, he's probably just taking 10 units on an insulin pen, which is probably like a unit and a half of GH, 1.5 IUs. And I'm like, are you taking just 10 units on an insulin pen? He goes, no, I'm taking 10 IUs of GH. I'm like, that's like a whole bottle, almost, depending on which versions you're using. He goes, yeah, it's like a half or 3/4 of a bottle. I said, why are you taking that much? You never even took this stuff before. He's like, well, that's what this so-and-so of IFBB Pro told me you got to take. I'm like, that's insane. First of all, you're going to get a ton of side effects from that. One being excessive fluid retention, okay? A lot of times when you start off too high, you're going to get the pins and needles in your hand, which is very uncomfortable because you get like a carpal tunnel-like syndrome here because you get so much fluid retention around this area here with that tunnel there, and it pinches off the nerves. You're going to get down when you first take a shot of GH, especially a high dose, it lowers your blood sugar initially because you get an IGF release. And IGF, by the name, insulin-like growth factor, has an insulin-like effect. So when people first take GH, they get a drop in blood sugar. That's why a lot of people notice that when they take GH, they get tired. They're like, oh, GH makes me tired. I'm like, no, you're just lowering your blood sugar when you're first taking it. But then long term, as the day progresses, you become insulin resistant from the GH blocking the effects of insulin, and then your blood sugars can actually go high. Now, you wouldn't feel high blood sugar because, you only feel low blood sugar. But the high blood sugar is way more damaging because now that extra sugar that's floating around in the blood that shouldn't be there can enter the tissues and accumulate in the nerve endings and cause problems. So you're looking for trouble by taking a lot of GH. Lower your dosage of GH and you won't have as many side effects. If you have some sides, stop it for like a week and then restart it again at a lower dose, like 2 to 3 IUs max. I would start with 2 IUs and see your body tolerates that.
Let's go to Mikey G. Thoughts on how to stop DHT-based AAS from causing hair loss. Alpha reductase inhibitors can make it even worse. Curious on your thoughts.
Look, when I was taking anabolics, I was taking finasteride since probably 2000, I think I started taking it. And I never had any negative effects, whether I took Deca or Trenbolone or Equipoise or Testosterone. I don't know, all these people like, oh, don't mix the finasteride with Deca because it's going to make your hair loss worse. It never happened to me. As soon as I started taking finasteride, it stopped my hair loss, okay? I didn't regrow very much hair, unfortunately, but it stopped me from losing the rest of it, which was good. So, and I think I'm very DHT sensitive because I was a kid, growing up as a kid, I always had bad acne, and when I took anabolic steroids, my acne got worse, and especially when I was on an aromatase inhibitor blocking estrogen production, my body was cranking out the DHT, and I was very sensitive to it. So I'm a guy that knows DHT. When I lowered my DHT using finasteride, my acne went away, okay, and my hair loss stopped, okay, and prostate enlargement runs in my family. My dad had it, his dad had it, knock on wood. I don't have any problem with my prostate, but I've been on finasteride for 20 years almost. So, and that's one of the reasons I stay on it too, because I'm like, you know what? I'm not taking anabolics anymore, but I want to keep my prostate protected and I don't want to lose any more hair. And it works like that. And like I said, it didn't matter what drugs I took. So don't get all paranoid about these people saying you can't do this, can't do that. What I would first start with, and that's what I always get people on first, if you're having some acne issues, okay, or if you're having some hair loss, thinning, take my Testalize product first. It's a natural DHT blocker. It's not going to annihilate the DHT. It's just going to lower it enough to bring it into normal levels. Try that first. If it works, you're better off with that because you're not going to get the side effects. Some people, when they take finasteride, have sex drive, lowering effects, and there's other side effects that other people get. I'm lucky. I have no side effects from finasteride that I know of, or at least I got used to them. It doesn't bother me. But for a lot of people, they do have sides, and it is a drug, and it's something you're gonna have to take the rest of your life. So if you can use a natural way of doing it and get the same results, would be what I suggest. Try Testalize the 3 pills twice a day for a good 6 months, okay? 90% of you're gonna get good results from it. For the 10% who are not getting good results with it, you can try to up your game a little and do some finasteride, 2.5 milligrams a day, or dutasteride if you wanna try that. But I wouldn't jump right to that right off the bat.
Let's go to Shawnee Boy Fit, and I preface this by saying that there are still many states around this country where gyms are still closed, so people are still figuring out their plan to ease their way back into their gym routine. So we do get questions like this time to time. Thoughts on going back to the gym after a 3-month layoff due to COVID, obviously. I've been doing home workouts with only bands and body weight. Would it be a good idea to jump straight back into my old routine in regards to sets, reps, splits, or maybe just ease back in with maybe 2 full body sessions a week with just a few sets?
I would go back to your routine, but I would go back to your routine with much lighter weight and less volume for the first week or two, till your body gets used to it. Build up gradually again, because even though you think and you might feel strong enough to do the weight you did before and the volume, you're not. You're going to, number one, either hurt yourself or overtrain yourself because your body's not used to that rigorous workout. That's my suggestion. Now, here's a take-home message. I'm going to give you guys a little tip. From my observations over the last 3 months of what's been going on in this country, and the idea that the COVID virus thing is the numbers of cases are going up now, and they say we may have an upswing again, and who knows, in the winter we may have a relapse of it. And you know what? There could be another virus like this that's released in a year or two, for all we know. I recommend you buy gym equipment, okay? Build yourself a little home gym. Everyone's got a spare room somewhere or a garage or whatever you got space-wise, economize it and buy. They got these dumbbells where it's 2 dumbbells and you just selectorize how heavy you want to go. And some of them go real heavy, these things. You can go anywhere from 5 pounds up to 120 pounds. So I recommend you invest some of your steroid money or your supplement money, whatever your game is, and buy equipment, okay? Even if you buy a couple pieces here and there and start building up a stockpile of stuff so that if you can't go to the gym, you have enough to do at your house. You don't wait till there's a drought, okay, before you go looking for water. You stockpile the water so that when there is a drought, you have something to drink.
Last question, it's from Ilya Milosh, and of course, Dave, we get a lot of questions pertaining to your bodybuilding career. Can we get an insight into Dave's peak week? For one, did he cut sodium out? Did it make any difference to not cutting it out? When was his last workout, and when did he start carbing up before a show?
From the beginning of when I started competing, I don't think a lot of things really changed that much, and I'll tell you what changed and what didn't. What didn't change is that I always stopped training for a Saturday show. I would always stop training on Wednesday. That would be cardio and weights, last workout. Sometimes I would do a full body workout, but usually I would do the next body part. And, what I did that was different, okay, back in the day when I first started in the 90s was I used to use like the Bob Grushkin routine of like cut sodium on Wednesday, start aldactone for a couple days, and then on Friday go to diazide. And by Friday, I was usually looked like I was ready to get on stage, and what was happening was I was starting to cramp, my hamstrings would lock up, and so what I found was, I stopped using aldactone and just used diazide, and then I still was coming in flat and cramping. So what I found was I couldn't stop sodium that quickly because my body flushed it too quickly because I always ate a lot of sodium during my diet, which is smart. So I wasn't sodium sensitive. So what I did was I just modified that, and I only cut sodium on Friday, and I only cut it for the beginning part of the day. After I stopped drinking, usually which is around 7, 8 o'clock for a prejudging on Saturday morning, I would stop the night before around 7, 8 o'clock. That's when I would put the sodium back in to kind of fill myself out again, as long as I wasn't drinking. So that changed a little bit. Obviously, the diazide that I use now is only on the day before the show. I don't use all that aldactone prior to that too much. I do deplete usually. I did deplete earlier in the week, Monday, Tuesday, usually like actually Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And then Wednesday, I would start the carbs up. I would carb Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then into Saturday. That was a standard for me because I needed a lot of carbs to carb up because I was flat. With other, with some people, they don't need that many days of carbs. They'll maybe only go Thursday, Friday. But I needed that Wednesday too, usually. Otherwise, I would just come in way too flat. And I found that as I got into my later part of my career, I found that I used to eat only clean carbs initially. I found that junk loading helped my body a lot better. So I would continue to eat McDonald's every single day, like burgers and fries as one of the meals, and that seemed to keep me fuller. And I don't know if it was from the sodium, the grease. My body just didn't carb up that well on just very clean carbs. I carbed up, but it was almost like I was like really dry and crisp looking, but I had a flat look to me. And I found that by adding the one junk meal in, that really helped my body a lot. Not everyone needs it, but I do work with a lot of guys. If you're in really good shape, where you have zero fat in your body, and you really did your homework, your body needs that junk food a little bit. And I'm not talking about cheesecake. I'm talking about greasy burgers and fries. I don't know why that. It's probably the fat content. I don't think it's a sugar thing, because if you're eating a lot of carbs, whether they're clean carbs or sugary carbs, they're all getting stored as glycogen. I really believe it's the fat content that's important, and it's hard to eat a lot of fat. And if you eat very clean fat like macadamia oil and olive oil, which is like kind of like monounsaturated fats mostly, they seem to just burn. They don't really store. So for some reason, the saturated, unhealthy fats are good at the end, which is ironic because here we are you're eating so clean and so healthy, you're burning all this fat, and then at the end you're putting in the most unhealthy fats, and they seem to just wake your body up. And like I said, I don't know I'd love to know what the mechanism is, but we all know it works, right? So I never used, like I said, a lot of sugary stuff. I used a lot of greasy type stuff, and that seemed to do well at the end. And it took me a while to be comfortable with doing that because, look, you diet for 16 weeks. You don't want to blow it at the end, right? So a lot of people are afraid to do that. That's why it's good to have a coach who can tell you, like, now I can tell my guys, do it. And they're like, all right, well, I trust Dave. Dave's not going to tell me to do something that's going to fuck me up. So I know it works, and I feel comfortable applying it to other people, and I know when to apply it. It's great. You get a bikini girl, it's great to give them a burger and fries the day before the show. And a lot of them are like, oh, should I eat this? Yeah, well, because, they don't even want to be too hard. They want to be rounder. They just want to have good abs. And so it works really well on women too. But they got to be lean. They got to be in shape. If you give a burger and fries to someone who's out of shape, who's really not ready, it'll make them a disaster. So once again, I preface that this technique has to be used on someone who is, in shape. But I was always in shape. But once again, I became more comfortable with experimenting with different things, one variable at a time, as I got deeper into my career. And you know what the truth is? I had more muscle and more muscle maturity deeper into my career, and I probably was able to get away with doing more and dieting for a shorter period of time because my body looked better and because it was more mature and I wasn't really holding as much fat. I wouldn't bulk up the last 4 or 5 years of my career I probably didn't go over 290, ever. So, whereas earlier in my career, I was going over 320, So, big difference in the way I approached it.
That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. A reminder right now on RxMuscle.com and the RxMuscle YouTube channel, Iron Rage with Lee Priest, talking about what else? Kai Green's new variety show. Also on the channel right now, our latest episodes of After Hours, and then after Heavy Muscle Radio, which had Dave Blondin. For those of you who may not be caught up with the story, he owned a gym in Oxford, Massachusetts. Like many other gym owners, locked out of his own gym. He told his side of the story where he's out $100,000, and then of course locked out of his own gym. He can't even use the office in the gym, but gives all the details. It's a very, very, very in-depth, interesting episode of the Heavy Muscle Radio show. For Dave Palumbo and Tyler Shore, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.